Hi, I'm Steve Barsick-Amstel with High Tech Design Safety. This is the next episode in the series for SemiS2 training for equipment suppliers. Hope you're enjoying this series. If you like it, please click the like button and subscribe below and make comments. Previous section was all about the setup section, sections 1 through 5 of SemiS2. And this section is about the safety philosophy that is part of SemiS2. And that safety philosophy falls into it's best to engineer out a hazard first, if possible. So an example of that would be if you don't need to use a heater, don't use a heater. I mean, that's kind of obvious. Also, in some of the sections, it says if you can use a less hazardous chemical to achieve the same process, do that. So for example, years back in the semiconductor industry, we were using a lot of 100% methanol or 100% IPA, and we found that if you drop that to 9.9%, then it was no longer flammable and still did everything it needed to do. So if you can't engineer out the hazard, then you can provide guarding to prevent access to the hazard. If that guarding has to be removed, or it's behind the guarding is a door or an enclosure, then you can either mechanically fasten that door or enclosure and provide a label, or you can provide an interlock. And then as it drops down from there, then if you can't interlock or guard the hazard and it's not a high hazard, then you can do other things like labeling or procedural steps to prevent contact with the hazard, and other documentation to prevent access to the hazard from a process standpoint. And of course, the standard points out that that is only for lower hazard type items. One of the things that we come up against a lot, though, is heaters. And if you open a door that's interlocked, the heat is still going to be there. The heater might turn off, but things will still be hot in that space. So be aware of that kind of issue. Further on safety philosophy is to, number one, use this standard in the design, the testing, the construction, the evaluation, the installation, the operation, and decommissioning phases of the equipment. So use this standard for the entire life cycle of your equipment. That provides you a best practices reference to be sure that the equipment is at least meeting these standards. So the next part of the safety philosophy is to characterize the hazards that are remaining in your equipment, to do a risk assessment to identify which are the highest hazards in your equipment. You probably already know what they are. However, once you dig down deep into a risk assessment, it'll clarify how you should manage those hazards and the relative risk around each hazard. This is the scope of the philosophy section of SemiS2 and how the task forces and the committees that wrote the standard approached writing SemiS2. It was really all about how can we reduce hazards to an acceptable level for the fab, for the factory making the semiconductors, and even for your own engineers, your service people, maintenance people, and for the people installing the equipment. And even at another level for the evaluators evaluating it. In all, the idea behind SemiS2 was to give a document that provided direction and a certification path to allow people to implement safe practices to provide safe equipment for the industry. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, make a comment, and please reach out to us. We'd really like to help you with your design process and run a conformity assessment for you. Thanks so much. I'm Steve with High Tech Design Safety.